and get it confirmed. We believe at this point the alternate needs to be put in her place.
Okay.
We agree.
Yeah,
Because Friday at noon is, and she didn't tell us. This would have been different.
Right, no, I
if we
agree,
had
but we'll
said
pull
something.
her, we'll talk to her, because maybe she has some flexibility, maybe she's changed things, but if not, and she is of the opinion she's got to be out of here at 12, I agree with you, because we don't want a jury deliberation going over and then a concern, and now we've released alternates and they've been deliberating.
Correct, so we agree that
we
the
agree on
alternate
that.
is in her place if she still has that obligation.
Okay, all right. I'm going to wait till tomorrow, though, to inquire with
Yes,
her.
thank you.
All right.
We just wanted to remind the court that she didn't bring that up.
Oh, I know. No, I think I was the first one to say that when I brought that up.
No, she didn't. And our client, I've already spoken to our client, she realizes that we need to make that replacement.
Well, maybe, we'll see.
Did you bring clothes and stuff to stay over?
Yes, we're ready.
I got a
Bring
little
them in.
bit. I'm in my car, my emergency stash.
Let's bring them in.
All rise. Jury entering.
All members of the jury are present and seated. Everyone else may be seated at this time. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, welcome back. First question to you is, did anybody have any exposure to the case, discuss the case, or do any research to the case during that last short break? All right, let the record reflect no hands are raised. I'm sure you all are always wondering, how long is this judge going to keep me here today? I just want to let you all rest at ease that we are only going to go up till 5:30. We're going to release you at 5:30 today, and we'll come back and pick up. We're not going to finish this witness. We'll come back and finish this witness tomorrow morning. But we're going to pick up where we left off with the direct examination.
Thank you, Judge. Dr. Ewing, I think you had just indicated or explained kind of what a mental status examination is, and that's in fact what you did with Nicole in April.
Yes.
I believe I had also asked you about the records that you reviewed with regard to the family court file, the custody file, and kind of what your overall impressions about Nicole's early years in that battle were, and I believe you gave us that opinion.
Yes.
Was there anything additional that we didn't cover? Specifically, I want to talk about a psychological evaluation that a Dr. Anderson had done within that file. Without telling us the exact contents of the evaluation or what may have been said, can you tell me just what your overall impressions of that were from the family court file?
Yeah, Dr. Anderson did a court-ordered evaluation of Nicole and her parents and reported to the court a lengthy report. But the bottom line was that she was extremely concerned about the psychological consequences for Nicole Nachtman if her parents continued to behave the way they had been behaving toward each other.
Did the evaluation record how old Nicole was at the time of that evaluation took place?
I think she was about 3 years old, maybe 4, but 3 or 4.
What is your understanding from your review of the custody file and the family court file and all the records as to when you believe Nicole Nachtman last had contact with her biological father, or at what age the family court file kind of resolved and Miriam Dean obtained custody?
Well, her father, my understanding is her father had custody of her early on, so or more of her life, and that during this custody litigation, her mother secured custody, so it would have been preschool age, and the father had, my understanding is that he had visitation, but that the mother thwarted, at least he claimed that she thwarted the visitation. She claimed he didn't show up. There were more battles, more custody and visitation battles, and at some point he was just gone from the scene.
And you believe that was, again, around that preschool age, 3 or so?
Maybe 4 years, yeah, around there somewhere.
I had asked you, and I don't know if we got to that because I know we just went on a break, but I had asked you about what that type of turmoil in someone like Nicole's life at such a young age, what type of impact that can have.
Well, it varies. My belief is that it had a tremendous impact on her development.
And tell me why that is.
Well, because I don't want to jump the gun too far, but I agree with Dr. Heidi that Nicole suffers from schizophrenia. And schizophrenia, we know from years of study that it has both a biological and a psychosocial basis. The biological basis, in order to become schizophrenic, you have to have some genetic biological predisposition toward it. We also know that most people, well, I can't say most, many people who have that predisposition never develop full-blown schizophrenia. Unfortunately, in this case, that was only the beginning of what would become pretty much a lifetime of abuse for this young woman. And it's my belief that psychological abuse started early on, preschool, continued right up until around the time of these unfortunate killings, and those two factors, this underlying biological factor plus the stress of being in an abusive, dysfunctional family all those years, is what caused her to be so severely mentally ill.
Did the bonding break from her biological father, Ronald, in her early childhood years have any effect on her?
I think it did. I can't say for absolute certainty, but seeing the two of them interact together more recently.
And you're referring to jail visits of
Yes.
videos that you observed?
Yeah, it seemed to me that they had a strong bond at one time in childhood, and that seemed to be reflected in the records too. The family court records indicated that both of these parents had a loving, caring relationship with their daughter. And his relationship with the daughter was, whether it was his fault or the court's fault or mom's fault, for some reason it was just cut off for many, many, many years.
And in fact, is it your understanding that Mr. Nachtman did not reunite her arrest for this case?
That's right. That's my understanding.
Did you also have an opportunity to review school records?
Yes.
What did the records reflect that you reviewed as to how many schools Nicole attended in her childhood?
It's got to be at least 9, and I want to say maybe even a dozen. I can't remember, but it's somewhere in that vicinity.
9 to 12.
Yes.
How does that type of instability in moving schools, if you go to school from age 5 to 18, because you graduate, that's 13 years. If in fact it's 9 or it's 12, how does that instability affect a child's development or a child's ability to make meaningful relationships and connections with
Well,
people?
obviously it makes it extremely difficult to have any kind of extended peer relationships. But some kids can deal with that. I've seen a number of, quote, Army brats, for example, who have moved over the course of their lifetime, attended many schools. Sometimes they can deal with that, but not somebody who's in an abusive, tumultuous situation like this young woman was experiencing throughout her life.
Was Nicole, like you termed it, a typical Army brat who could deal, or in your opinion, based on your review of the records, did that instability and constant movement between schools affect Nicole?
Oh, yeah, and I discussed it with her at some length, and it did, it clearly did. It at all on those moves, but clearly the moves didn't help. They made it much more difficult for her.
Was there anything within the school records, specifically because you mentioned the 3rd grade, that you relied on with regard to observations teachers or school psychologists may have made of Nicole in the 3rd grade?
Yeah, there was an evaluation, a psychological evaluation done of Nicole when she was in the 3rd grade, because the teachers were saying that she was peer relations, difficulty getting along, having academic problems, that sort of thing. And I made some notes on it if I could refer to those.
Yeah, that'll refresh your memory.
Yeah. The psychologist said that she thought she might have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, and that I believe she recommended some treatment for her.
Is that third grade evaluation or the psychological evaluation significant to you in terms of the onset of Nicole's mental illness?
Yes.
Tell me what's significant about that.
What I've seen over the course of my work and what's documented in the literature is that when we look back on a patient's development, a particular patient who suffers from schizophrenia or some other major mental illness, there are usually signs dating back into early childhood. They may not have been picked up, they may not have been recognized at the time, but in retrospect we can look back and you can almost always see that there were signs that this person was different, was peculiar, was acting out, had some kind of problems. And third grade seems about right, in my experience, for people to start noticing those sorts of things. Kindergarten, first, second grade, there's not so much of an emphasis put on behavior and there's not so much emphasis placed on behavior like this. But once you start getting into more academic issues, more serious educational issues, third, fourth, fifth grade, then you start to see these kind of referrals made and evaluations done. That's been my experience.
You had mentioned that within those school records for Nicole that you observed that there had been a recommendation that some follow-up treatment or therapy or something be done.
Yes.
In any of the records you reviewed, the family accounts, the custody battle file, anything indicate that Nicole Nachtman or Miriam Deans ever followed up with that recommendation by the school?
No, to my knowledge, they didn't.
Did you also have an opportunity to review school records where Nicole spent some time at a boarding school called the Air Academy?
Yes.
What, if any, indication in those school records did you see with regard to teacher observations or reports about Nicole's behaviors or bullying or anything like that?
Well, they reported that she was a victim of bullying, that she showed odd behavior and students picked on her, and she responded by withdrawing, but also by making threats to other students. And there was quite a bit of concern. And from what I could gather, the school pretty much demanded that she have some kind of evaluation and treatment. And I don't recall it. I heard Dr. Heidi testify that she got some kind of evaluation done. I don't recall that, but I know she didn't get any treatment.
That was going to be my next question. Did you review in any of the records, despite teacher concerns while Nicole was attending the Air Academy, or reports about bullying, or maybe even her response to the bullying, that in fact any follow-up counseling or treatment was obtained by her mother or any guardian for that matter?
No, there wasn't.
And just so the jury can understand a time frame, we talked about the third grade school psychological evaluation. What age or grades do you believe Nicole was attending the Air Academy, if you remember?
I think it was 7th and 8th or 8th and 9th, somewhere in that vicinity.
And 7th or 8th grade, a child is usually about how old? We can put an age on it.
13, 14. Early adolescence.
You had indicated that you also, in the materials you reviewed, in addition to the school records, the psychological evaluations, you reviewed deposition testimony or recollection and recitations of family history from family members, like the Uncle Eric Lear, George Lear, these people who were kind of around Nicole for part of her childhood. Did you review those materials?
Yes.
And what was your overall impression from those materials as to whether any family members were reporting seeing signs of an onset of a possible mental illness or issues Nicole may have been having? Even her brother Joey Carey. Anything about those materials that you reviewed to indicate not only is the school reporting issues, but so is the family, or at least noticing the family?
Well, yeah, her brother seemed to view it as somewhere in the middle of her childhood that she just changed. that she went from being an outgoing, charming, wonderful kid to kind of withdrawn, depressed, and difficult child, difficult to relate to. So that's one thing. 2 or 3 of her family members mentioned over time that she was withdrawn, that in fact one of them talked about her appearing to talk to herself, and I believe another spoke about how, I think it was her cousin, somebody about maybe her age or maybe a little bit older, trying to think of what his name was, the young man.
David Lear, does that sound right?
Yeah, I think that's right. That she changed, that they used to do things together and I guess play together, and that changed, and that she became increasingly distant and difficult. And
I apologize, it may have been Hunter Lear.
Oh.
Does that sound right?
yeah, I
Okay.
think that's right. I'm
That
sorry.
would have been Eric's son.
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So that's her cousin, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, with regard to the reports by the relatives or the family members who observed, again, these changes in Nicole issues, did the records reflect, A, that they appeared to have reported their concerns to Miriam Deans, the mother, at all?
I don't think they did. I mean, they may have discussed it at some level, but
Or that any follow-up treatment or counseling or interventions were done at that point?
no, nothing was done.
So you have from the school records, counselors and teachers reporting observations about Nicole
Yes.
that are somewhat concerning or
I would say very concerning, especially the ones from the Air Academy.
and then reports from her own family members that possibly they're observing some changes in Nicole, and nothing in you reviewed that there were ever any counseling or interventions done by the mother.
That's right.
What, if any, evidence did you see both in the records, family accounts, and your evaluation of Nicole to indicate that there was evidence that she was physically abused? And I'm going to break them up individually, but let's start with physical abuse.
Nicole indicated to me that on several different occasions her mother punched her, slapped her, kicked her, stomped her, and pinched her, grabbed her, pulled her hair. I think those are the main things that she described.
Anything within the records, were there like police reports or arrest reports on behalf of Nicole listed as a victim anywhere, anything like that in any of the
I
records?
didn't see anything like
Okay.
that.
So the physical abuse would be things Nicole reported to you.
Yes.
What about the psychological abuse?
Well, what she reported was a long history of her mother yelling, swearing, condemning, demeaning, swearing at her, calling her names, vulgar names, and extreme amount of control, demanding, for example, that she lose a certain amount of weight, telling her that she was fat, that she was ugly, that her clothing was ugly, putting her down at really kind of critical points like high school graduation, which is was a big deal. And I guess it's a big deal to anyone. It was a big deal to me to graduate from high school.
What did Nicole report occurred at graduation
That-
in terms of physical, I'm sorry, psychological abuse?
Yeah, that her mother told her that she was ashamed of her, basically, and that she hadn't lived up to her expectations, and that she didn't like the clothing that she was wearing, that she didn't appear appropriately dressed for the graduation.
In addition to Nicole's reports of psychological abuse, did you view anywhere in the records where that would have been corroborated by either other members of the family or anyone else that you, that as far as documents you reviewed?
Her brother talked a bit about it. He said he'd never seen any physical abuse, but he did talk about how his sister, Nicole, had a difficult relationship with the mom, and I think he talked about controlling issues. And he also talked about some abuse that he'd suffered at the hands of the mom, Mrs. Deans.
Judgment of approach?
Take it up to 5:30.
With regard to the psychological abuse that you've just testified to was not only documented by her brother Joseph, but also Nicole relaying that information to you.
And some records, I mean, for example, there are records, medical records about the LASIK surgery and I think about liposuction.
Why are those significant, or what about those constitute a form of abuse in your opinion?
Well, the mother is basically unhappy with the way the child looks. So she wants the child to undergo what some people would regard as significant surgery, liposuction, in order to make her look more like she wants her to look. I consider that to be psychologically abusive, especially when the child doesn't want it. And the same thing with the LASIK surgery. The mom wanted the daughter to have LASIK surgery. The daughter didn't want it. She was afraid of the surgery. Mother insisted. They got there. The records indicate that Nicole was interviewed by some staff member, a nurse, or some other person, and she raised concerns about it, and then it was discussed, and it did not occur.
And the LASIK was more of an appearance thing, was your understanding,
Again,
so
yeah.
she didn't have to wear glasses.
Yeah, mother didn't like the way she looked with glasses. But all that's kind of part of a control that I would see as psychologically abusive.
Any other instances of psychological abuse that you can recall that either Nicole reported to you, family members reported, or that you reviewed within the records?
Oh, I mean, there are multiple occasions where the mother swore at her, called her names, called her fucking bitch, motherfucker. I mean, those seem to be two of the pet names that she would frequently use. There's also an incident where I believe the mother was engaging what I would consider to be gaslighting, which is maybe trying to make you feel like you're a little crazy. Nicole was on the telephone with her, and her stepfather was supposed to be coming to pick her up at school, and the mother didn't say anything to her. She was talking to her as if she were at home, and then she pulls up, the mother pulls up.
So the mother had lied to Nicole and said your stepdad was coming,
Right.
which would have been Bob,
Yes.
but in fact the mom shows up.
And then and played it out right to the bitter end, till shortly before she got there.
And why is that significant to you?
Well, because as I said, I see it as kind of gaslighting. It's like Nicole is very rigid in her thinking. You tell her something, and that's the way it is. And her mother told her, Bob is coming to pick you up. Bob's coming to pick you up. And so when her mother shows up after having just spoken to her and saying, Bob's coming to get you, she was surprised, and it kind of knocked her off her game, so to speak.
Let me ask you a question, because we're on the topic of abuse, both physical, psychological, in this example you've just raised. You indicated earlier that you also watched the video evaluations by the state's doctor, Dr. Emily Lazaro. Is that
Yes.
correct? And in fact, those were videotaped, and the entire evaluation was videotaped.
Yes, it was.
Did Nicole report that same incident about the Bob, if you remember, to Dr. Lazaro?
I don't remember
Okay.
if she reported many other instances of psychological abuse to Dr. Lazaro.
When she reported the instances of psychological abuse, physical abuse to Dr. Lazaro in those video evaluations, what do you recall Nicole's demeanor, reaction to describing those events as she's talking about them?
She was just acting as if it was happening right there. I mean, she was crying, sobbing, moaning, curling up, rocking. It was a very emotional reaction. and very current, I would say, almost present. You know, it looked to me almost like she was reliving those moments.
And when you watch the video evaluations by the state doctor, those occurred this year in 2019.
Yes.
And the reports of abuse, both psychological, physical, or just in general, the treatment of her mother, she's recalling things from her childhood, correct?
Yeah, as early as the 3rd grade.
But as she's describing them in 2019, she is still having an emotional reaction to those events.
Yeah, in fact, in one case, she's saying sorry, 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 as if she's apologizing
To the doctor,
to her mother.
to her mother.
Yeah, that's how I took it.
Judge, it's 5:30, I don't know.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we're going to break for the day. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to send you home now at 5:30. We'll pick up at 9 a.m. Please do not do any research related to the case. Please do not talk about the case amongst yourselves or with anyone else. And please avoid any exposure to the case from media reports of the case. All rise for the jury. Jury has exited. Everyone may be seated. Doctor, you may step down.
Okay.
Sorry about that, but to the extent that you need me to, I'm ordering you to be back here tomorrow
Thank you.
a little bit before 9 a.m.
That's helpful to me.
All right,
Thank you.
all right, not a problem. People don't usually like me to order them to do things.
Judge, before we leave for the day, I want to bring up an issue that just came up with Ms. Hersey at the bench.
Oh, Doctor, I'm sure you know, but please not discuss your testimony with anyone unless all the attorneys are present. Thank you.